Hamilton Arts Council serves arts communities within the Greater Hamilton area, including Ancaster, Dundas, Flamborough, Glanbrook, Hamilton, Stony Creek, Waterdown, and Six Nations of the Grand River. We acknowledge that this area is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase, 1792, between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Hamilton Arts Council envision a unified and dynamic arts community that is innovative, impactful, diverse, and professionally sustainable. We hope you've had an opportunity to explore all of the upcoming professional development sessions which are taking place between October and December in 2021. You can find these via our website, www.hamiltonartscouncil.ca. Click Programs and then Professional Development. All sessions are free to attend and presented in partnership with the City of Hamilton's Tourism and Culture Division. I am going to invite today's panelists to introduce themselves and let us know where they're joining us from today. So I will come over to Mayumi first of all.
Hi, I'm Mayumi Lashbrook. I use she, her pronouns. I'm coming to you from Toronto. So I'll acknowledge the land where I am. I am meeting in the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. And it is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I acknowledge that Takaranto, the place in the water where the trees are standing, is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I also often do a visual description for anyone who's visually impaired. Today I chose a lot of white and gold. So I have a white button up and tank top on. I have gold rimmed glasses, some little bits of jewelry as well. And I'm coming to you from my living room, which is a white wall and then nice big windows behind me that look out onto a park with lots of trees and sunshine. Yeah.
Marvelous. Well, we're very excited and pleased to have you here. And Ashley, if you'd like to unmute and let us know all about you and where you're calling in from today.
Yeah, I'm just to do a pronunciation thing.
Yep.
It's T's are in Mohawk. T's are pronounced as D's, and K's are, and anyway, it's Degarundo. That's how we say Toronto. But we're all on a learning curve and everything is great. And there's stuff going on ahead of me. Yeah, anyway, I'm sorry about that noise. Yeah, I am Ashley. I am Mohawk from Six Nations of the Grand River. I am an artist. I've worked in film, theater, and dance for half of my life, and I love it. I wouldn't do this if I didn't love it, because guess what? It's hard. But I'm here, and I'm happy to be here. And yeah, happy to share anything that I can.
So today we're talking about building professional pathways, looking specifically at dance, but also recognizing that as artists and creatives, our experience may move into other genres. And I want to encourage you to share your experience as it relates to any of the genres that come up. One of the things that I wanted us to start by talking about was this idea of becoming an arts professional. So looking at the transition into professionalizing our arts practice, and how do we qualify today as a professional dancer or a professional performer? What does that mean versus, say, emerging or a student or someone who is just passionate about what they're doing? How, for you, in your experience, how do you use that term and classify that term professional?
I just to say something. I feel like I've always been an emerging artist, no matter how much years of experience I've had, how many years rather, grammatically correct. Um, uh, but like, do you like? There's the colonial mindset of like you need to have a BA, an MA, a blah, BFA, whatever it is, to qualify to even enter the circus. And I don't think that we need to go there. I think that dancers are dancers. Like you're born and you know that you're a dancer. And so having to pay thousands of dollars to go to a colonial system doesn't make sense. If you're a dancer, you can get trained elsewhere, but will you be recognized elsewhere? So I'll stop there, but that's my sentiment.
Sure. And Mayumi?
Yeah, I completely agree with Ashley. It's really challenging to consider what is deemed professional. I think I remember in university, our instructors talked about professional meant you were getting paid. That was their determination. And so I walked into the professional world with that idea. And it's over time really evolved for me that I think it's way more about self-identification. It's ultimately what you feel inside, and therefore how you identify. I think it's challenging because there's a lot of institutions, like looking at arts councils, they require a certain amount of professional stature, and like there is a measurement for that. But I have been seeing quite a bit of change of letting go of some of those structures, which is quite exciting. Because like I said, I think self-identification ultimately is what matters, the bottom line.
And I think it's interesting because so many of the artists that I've encountered, that we've worked with at different times, I would have considered them professional artists, but perhaps they're not sustaining their practice. They're not sustaining their livelihood strictly through their dance or arts practice. Many arts practitioners who we consider to be professional today are also supplementing their practice through various other means. And I look at my own experience right now. I work as an arts administrator, and so I'm articulating maybe more so myself as a dancer, choreographer, dance educator, but that's all very project based. You know, the rest of the time, to sustain myself, to be able to live, I work in arts administration, but I would still be classified as a professional dancer based on training, experience, and history.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also interesting if you consider like the norms of what let's say, regular job. So something that's deemed professional, like a carpenter, you're going to do that practice every day. And in dance, it's almost impossible to be performing every day. So that delineation of like allowing the practice to mean like I have to do it all the time doesn't allow that to be professional then. And so letting go of the idea that I have to dance X amount of days per year to be a professional dancer is like, yeah, let's like let go of that idea. It's not helpful. Because exactly as you pinpointed, it's fluid. It fluctuates so much, especially because of the practice and the availability for us to actually practice every day. So
yeah, no, it was like a thing of I went into film school and film was the way for me. Like my mother told me I had a camera in my hand since I was 4 years old. And sorry about the renovations upstairs, I can't help it. But Yeah, I've been an artist my entire life, and going into arts when my entire family are professional athletes, like accoladed athletes. And my mom wanted me to be an athlete. and guess what? I'm not, Mom. I'm an artist through and through. And Wuthering Heights like lives in my bones.
I wonder if was there a point, I guess, where did you ever get any advice or direction when you were coming into your formative years around, yes, you know, you should pursue the arts? Was that message conveyed to you, that's a wonderful path for you? Or, as so many other people do, were you receiving the message like, I don't know, man, if you can build a sustainable life on arts practice? Did you have that experience?
The arts have never been sustainable. That is just a standard, and that's really unforgivable, because the arts give people so much life. So yeah, I feel bad about that, but yeah, no. Jenny Lozon is a person that I met when I was like 16, maybe in my teenage years. Anyway, she's an incredible artist, incredible art maker. I love Jenny. But yeah, she just kind of encouraged me, and knowing that Santi Smith, it lives down the road from me. And that now I'm friends with her daughter, Samaya Smith, is really beautiful. And I'm very grateful for that connection. And family and community, it's all good. It's a hub.
And what was I was going to say, Mayumi, what was your experience with that? What was the sort of the messaging you received around that, if any, at that time?
Yeah,
I think just like inspiration, right? Just knowing that my mom knew Santi when Santi was 10 years old, and watching her dance, and knowing that my mother knew that she was going to be someone special very soon, and she was, and she is. And that's incredible. And that I'm friends with her daughter, and also I'm friends with Santi. But yeah, it's just a beautiful connection for community, because we are family, even if we're not bloodline related. Yeah, they're
Mayumi?
close to me.
Yeah, beautiful. I think I recall the desire for somebody to like bop me on the head and be like, this is where you're supposed to go. But that's never going to happen. And I think I also recognize I was very fortunate that I have parents that were accepting of heading into the arts, because there's so many people who don't understand the importance of it. And they were encouraging, yet maybe like a little bit hesitant of how hard is it going to be for you, but they've come to all my shows. Like, they're very supportive, and I feel very fortunate to have had that. But yeah, there was no one really screaming at me like, this is what you need to do. And I found that really hard to consider. Like, if I'm going down this path, it's going to be challenging, and if no one's like jumping out saying this is the way to go, then it has to be me internally saying this is the way to go. And I was not in a place when I first started out to really feel that. So it's been a development of finding that confidence and finding that drive in myself, because no one else is going to hand it to you.
Right.
Sure, they're going to be like, yes, that performance was beautiful or whatnot, but to actually head into it professionally, you're not going to have tons of people telling you to do that. So in many ways for me, it was actually a choice of circumstance that I didn't have anything I was really drawn to. And then from there, it flourished into something that I really loved to do and wanted to stay in. But yeah, I've joked that I've had many times where I've broken up with dance and then gotten back together with it, because it's challenging. It's so hard to feel motivated on your own. I also think we're really in a fortunate place that dance is a social art form, and that we have the encouragement of peers when many other art forms are quite solitude. Like that's your practice is in solitude. So I think also having amazing peers to cheer you on means so much. And ultimately, those are the people who have pushed me forward in it. Many of them being here in the moment.
And that part, that community that we build around ourselves, I think is a really important part of our personal as well as our professional development. One of the terms that we've already referred to is this idea about the arts being sustainable. This is sort of quite a big question and very very subjective. But when we talk about sustainable careers in the arts or a sustainable art practice, what does that mean? What does that mean to us? Mayumi, you're already unmuted if you want to lead us in, and then I'll bring the question over to Ashley.
Sure. I think it kind of circles back to the same idea of like, if I'm not dancing every day, then I'm not a dancer, or like that idea of doing something daily. That sustainability to me actually means that I'm not doing it daily, and that I'm giving myself the breaks from it to feel refueled and recharged to go back in. I think that word balance is like so key in finding sustainability, because if I'm pushing too hard, then I'm going to burn out. And if I'm writing too many grants or performing too much, that burnout is inevitable. So I think it's engaging yourself in a way that really creates a sustainable balance between dancing and not dancing. Like, give yourself the weekends off. We joke so much about the fact that like dance doesn't know, we don't observe long weekends, and we really don't. Like the amount of rehearsals that I've had on a holiday Monday. But I think trying to push for those boundaries for yourself, because no one else is going to provide them, and that's going to allow you to be sustainable.
And Ashley, sustainable careers and sustainable arts for you, what does that mean? What does that look like?
Hard question. I am a person with like I said before, an undiagnosed disability. So yeah, I use a walker now. That's weird. Not weird, but like weird for me. In the fact that I used to walk, I used to dance, I used to do a lot of things. And so my disability has only made me more conscious and aware of disability in the arts. And so I want to create space for that, for everyone to be treated as equals.
There's definitely a link between the movements towards making arts and dance sustainable, and as well making it equitable. And I guess part of what I think about today when I think about a sustainable career is as well, I start to look at the numbers. I start to look at, financially, am I able to sustain myself? And my answer, obviously, with the working on a project basis is no. I can't sustain myself just on my dance practice, and I'm one of those very fortunate people who has shacked up with someone who can afford, you know, to
You
keep us
consider
in a,
yourself jacked up?
I am shacked up, and happily so, and shacked up with someone who, you know, I can live in an apartment in downtown Hamilton and
Yeah.
function, but my arts practice is not sustainable
Yeah.
in that sense. And so I think about, I had a really interesting conversation with a visual artist, and it's one of the sessions that will come up when we in professional development around visual arts, looking at the way that she prices her work. And she says, you know, when I'm pricing my individual pieces of work, I'm having to factor into that price what I'm paying into my retirement and what I'm paying into this and what I'm paying into that. And of course, it's so easy, or I suppose I found it so easy to not think about that. I think about in the moment and kind of coming up with the price, but sustainable arts practice is going to require a commitment, I suppose, to a benchmark, understanding how much life costs and participating costs, and how do I work all of that in. So I suppose it's leading me to the question around this idea of benchmarking and understanding worth as an artist and worth as a dance artist. I wonder, Mayumi, if you could talk a little bit about where you're at in that process of benchmarking your professional work. And I also, and it's one of the questions I'd worked in, maybe if you could talk a little bit about any experiences you've had where you've had to decline work or opportunities because they're not, then they don't meet a benchmark or a professional standard.
Absolutely. There've been many. One of the things that I really weigh nowadays that I found has been really effective for me is 3 Ps. So purpose, people, or price. So when I look at a project, if it's 2 of those 3 things at a high volume, I go for it. If it's 1, I really can't commit to it. It doesn't make sense to. So I'm not willing to sacrifice a certain amount of like satisfaction, in a sense, whether it's monetary satisfaction or personal artistic satisfaction. But when I weigh those 3 things together, it usually points me in a direction of taking work or not. And yeah, I think the more I've worked, the more confidence I've had in determining what my rate is, and feeling okay if I ask for X amount of dollars per hour and the answer ends up being no. I feel more and more confident in that. And I think it honestly just takes time, sadly. But that building up of understanding of what my worth is has definitely been a slow process, and slowly gaining more and more understanding. There's a couple of practices that I do that I think have been really effective as well. On top of that, like if I know that the budget's really low, often I'll send what the price should be, and then send, this is what you're getting instead, so that the other person has also the education piece of, okay, so this is what it would cost. And I'm really, therefore grateful of what cost it actually is. And then you're working in a more level playing field, in a place where there's more understanding for the effort being put in.
I think that's a really valuable point and a consideration. It's important as an arts sector, as a community of dance artists, that we work together. There's this idea where a high tide raises all ships, and when we can come to a place where we are almost standardizing, this is what this costs, this is how much, you know, a choreographer needs and should be paid, and it doesn't matter whether you come to me or you go to the next place or you go to the next place, you know, this is how much you have to be prepared to pay, because this is an art form, this is an outlook, this is an experience, and this is a training. This isn't just somebody's really grateful to do this for you, and so therefore just kind of throws it out there. Ashley, I wondered if you would be able to speak to this idea of benchmarking value in the arts, and maybe any experiences that you've had around having to turn down opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many experiences that I've had. I've worked as a stage manager, and so I care for the actors on the stage. I care for the director. I care for everyone. But when you're working in predominantly white institutions, you have to work by their rules. But you also, as an Indigenous person, you have to fight for your own rules. And that means you can call in the director, the ED, the whatever, and they will say, it's beyond me. I can't do anything. But then you talk to someone else who's lower status, and he will do, and they will do anything for you. And I'm just like, I want to smudge the space. I don't care about your fire rules. Guess what? This is a human rights issue. But it happens, and then we let it happen every single time that we have a rehearsal, so it's been a lot. There's trials, but I always win. I will say that, or that the creator always wins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad to hear that. That's good to know. I'll know that going into future business dealings with Ashley. Ashley always wins. That's a good note.
Ashley always wins.
I suppose
Mayumi knows this.
I suppose as well, it would be a good point to bring up. I know that we'll talk a little bit about the resources available through CADA, through the Canadian Alliance of Dance Artists. But one of the important benchmarks I discovered when I first sort of started arranging my professional practice in Canada in 2018 was I came across the CADA website, which had the recommended rates and fee schedules, and it was really I was really heartened by that, because the numbers actually that I was seeing represented actually felt appreciative and representative of where I wanted to take my work. And it's absolutely a stop point for me when I'm going into project planning or writing grant applications and sort of trying to do that difficult and complicated math. It's so useful to be able to root those in a standard, in a benchmark. And I think it would be important and really beneficial, specifically for dance practice in the Greater Hamilton area, for us to do maybe a better job of making those resources more widely available and more widely known and understood. So yeah, and we will, like I say, we will refer back to those resources. Do you want to say anything about those now?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for recognizing CADA East, the Canadian Alliance of Dance Artists, but in the East chapter. Yeah, we are doing some things slowly as we go, but you know, I'm just I'm new into the position, but my heart is here, and people can always reach out to me through the email that you are going to send.
Yeah, we'll pop that that email in the chat, and people can sort of follow up and find out more information about those resources. So moving us forward, I wanted to ask you about important investments that you've made in your career development. Those could be financial, those could be personal, they could be ongoing, and as well this idea of the conditioning or ongoing training that takes place for you as a dancer or as an arts practitioner. Mayumi, do you want to talk a little bit? And I guess I'm talking more sort of beyond the formal training of dance, kind of what that investment into your development has looked like, both if you want to talk about monetarily, you're more than welcome, or if you want to talk in a general sense.
I think like many, I have basically always balanced two careers. So I have my dance, and then I have some other kind of arts administration role, similar to as you spoke. So I think investing in something that felt sustainable in that realm of arts administration and also supportive, that was something that's allowed me to really have the freedom financially and both mentally, because then I'm not caught up in sort of the ideas of how much am I really earning. It allows me to be more free in the creation. So I think investing in that has been really helpful. I mean, the hours upon hours of grant writing was probably the single-handed best investment. I mean, not in that I wanted to, but it's an imperfect system, I think, is really what I mean by that. But that investment has actually allowed me two things. Not only has it given me opportunities to actually showcase my work and create more, but it's also allowed me the opportunity to sort of dive under the layers of what I want to create, because if I can't talk about it, I can't really create it. So that has been, like I said, hours and hours and hours of personal investment that has ultimately resulted in some really fulfilling and enriching experiences. I'm diving into a mentorship in this fall with Denise Fujiwara, and already we're like 2 weeks in, and I'm like, this is the greatest investment I've ever made. So I think sort of that idea of community and looking to the people around you as a way to invest in yourself. And like I've said before, it's not a solitary practice. And so really utilizing the people around you and shadowing them as much as possible, asking them questions, engaging in what they're doing is such an investment in yourself as well. So I would say that mentorship is really giving that to me in a way that is more sustainable than perhaps some of my other community investments have been.
And Ashley, sort of along those lines, what role has community or collaboration or mentorship, what has that meant to, or what has that played sort of in your development as an artist and a supporter for the arts?
I think that it has been like a bit of like an evolution, to say that, but like yeah, there are places where you don't need to go. Elders have gone there and they haven't succeeded. But they think that you need to go there, and I don't know. I'm still reading Wuthering Heights. Like,
there's something in the way that the current structure for artists, the way that exists, that actually pits us more into competition. So this idea of forming community and relationships is sometimes it can be it can look almost opposite to what's being asked of us, particularly when it comes to applying for grants, applying for funding, applying for the next kind of professional opportunity, where we're anticipated in those applications to demonstrate why we're better than, or why we're the more what's the word?
Guess what? I've never received a grant.
Mm-hmm.
I've never received a single grant.
And why do you think that is?
maybe I'm not a strong grant writer.
Mhm.
I don't know. But that's not on me.
Right, right. And it's interesting because that structure still exists, and yet the whole of society, the whole of society is desperately trying to grow and evolve. And I know, Mayumi, you had said that you've seen some development in those areas, but ultimately what's going to be what currently exists to be required of us is this ability to identify why we're the best bet, I suppose, for that money.
Yeah, no, and like I want to call it out and just say that it is a colonial system, and they have colonial expectations.
Mhm.
And guess what? I don't meet them.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Mhm.
But yeah, not here for it. But you're offering it to Indigenous folks to make yourself look better, then cool. Cool. But I'm not receiving it.
Mhm. I think that kind of circles back to the idea of self-identifying, that there's so much more than just what the structures say deems professional. Because I'm like,
Right.
thinking about the structures of granting, I completely agree with you. It's not a perfect system in any way. And in many ways, I don't know that it's a system that we should have to apply for. But knowing that that's what's available at the moment, and reimagining what it could be, I think is really fantastic.
Yeah, and I think those conversations are taking place about that reimagination. What the time period is of when they will finally, when that information will filter up the chain, I'm not sure. But
Mhm.
so the next sort of question I wanted to look at was, because we talked about grant writing, and which is a skill. I mean, it can be very all-encompassing, and I want to talk about other sort of skills that you've had to develop throughout your career, your development as an artist or a dancer. And what do you perhaps wish that you could have been given a more formal understanding of earlier on to support your development?
I would have to say the same.
Right.
Very much like as a project lead, you have to wear so many hats at the same time. You're potentially a choreographer, a performer, a friend, a budget balancer, an administrator. You're so many things simultaneously. Producer, like all of the other technical elements too, you're leading. So I think knowing as much as you can about those simultaneous realms that you're going to be managing. There have been many things like getting our name incorporated. That is just paperwork that I really didn't think I'd ever have to do, but had to. And talking to accountants and getting an HST number, all of those pieces are really challenging things that can stop you in your tracks if you don't want to engage in them. And in many ways, they are put upon us, unfortunately. But to continue, in many ways, they are needed at this current time. So we've had to do a lot of that for Aeris Körper, for ourselves personally. So yeah.
And what would have and then as well, I suppose, mentally, the mental preparation that goes into being an artist and being a dance practitioner. You skirted on it earlier, and it reminded me that there was a while where I was waiting for permission. I felt like I was waiting for permission or someone to tell me that I'm good enough or that I'm ready to go. And I would say as well, a turning point in my training was when I realized that that with ballet and Graham and Lamone and Cunningham and all these pieces, these the instructors are trying to bring me to this perfect point, and my job, as it was part of my training, my job is to take everything that I can away from that, not strive for perfection in each of those individual things, and then use them to inform the artist and performer that I wanted to be. So trying to let go of this idea of reaching a standard that then is, okay, go, you're good enough. But to trust that instinct and that desire to perform and create and present, I think is a really valuable thing that I wouldn't say we're necessarily told right at the beginning. Actually, I wondered if you could talk about your experience with that as you developed as being an artist and an arts administrator, looking at skills that maybe you have had to develop that you wish that you had developed sooner.
Skills that I have learned working with individuals that you might not agree with.
Conflict resolution, team,
yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah, no, it gets gritty. Yeah. But that's okay. Because gritty will, the thing is, like, walk with integrity. And the world will go your way, I think.
Mayumi, I wondered, I know that Sid is joining us today, so you'll have to watch your words, but I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about your experience with being a co-director, if that's the right term, of a company, and working within a dance company environment. And I suppose if there's advice or guidance in if there are people emerging in their dance career, you know, how they might go around finding other like-minded people or potential partnerships in a similar vein.
I mean, I can't gush enough about Sid and their leadership. That's a whole other hour.
Yes.
I think for us, it formed very naturally that we'd been brought into a project together, and a friendship arose, and from that friendship, a working relationship as well. But I think one of the things that we go back to quite often is that communication is key. And I know everyone says that, but we have to probably communicate 3 times the amount of perhaps someone working in a more colonial manner, maybe. Our need to really spend time together is integral to the construction of the actual company. And I feel very fortunate that we have such a great balance of the things that I'm not very good at, Sid's incredible at, and vice versa, that really finding those slots of what you can do differently. But yeah, we've spent lots of time communicating what it is that each of us are most interested in, and building the company value out of that, as opposed to our own individual. And that therefore Aeris Körper becomes a different voice, that it has both of our voices. It has multiple people's voices, actually, but it's that together, it's a different being. So I think taking as many like administrative branding courses type thing as possible has been very helpful and supportive of that.
Anyone who's maybe listening in to check out the carterontario.camp8.org website, that's where I discover most of the pieces that I use today for particularly in grant writing and basically building a project. There was something that Mayumi had said earlier which resonated with me just the other day, and that's that in writing these project proposals, in writing grant applications, I really get a deeper understanding about my project. I really get to sort of reconcile for myself, what is it I'm trying to do? What is it I'm trying to say? What is the impact that I hope to have with my work? And part of what's come up a few times in the conversation today is this idea of community. I think those conversations with other dance artists, but also other artists working in entirely other genres, is integral to professional development. Understanding the lived experience of artists who work maybe predominantly in visual arts or media arts or music, and looking for those areas where obviously our work can intersect for collaborative projects, but also just the shared experience of someone who is trying to carry a vision into their community, who's trying to express something that maybe is unsaid in words. I think that shared experience is incredibly important, particularly when we're still functioning within a structure that asks us to be solo or individual or, hierarchical. Yeah, so I just want to thank both of you for being part of my community today. I haven't had a lot of opportunity to sit and talk about my experience, and I think from this conversation, it certainly informs some of the conversations that we'll be having as part of the Arts Council and planning and project planning moving forward, and looking at providing some of the resources that have been mentioned today. Before we sort of bid you both adieu, I wondered if there was any sort of closing comments, advice, or guidance that you would like to add. Mayumi, if you'd like to go first.
Sure. I was just going to say that the community that you speak of in Hamilton is the #1 reason why I am drawn to that. Hamilton is just above and beyond in terms of fueling that community engagement, and it's a really special place to be for that. So I feel very grateful to be ingrained in that community and continuing to watch it evolve as well. And I've also been a proud member of CATA for I don't even know how many years. So I mirror David's sentiments about how much your work at CATA allows me to do, to walk into a conversation about contracting with confidence. Those tools have just been outstanding, really supportive. So thank you for both of your work. And yeah, I think I recognize at some point somebody had asked a question about sort of advice for younger me. And I think I'll end on that note, that I think it's just continuing to ask for what you want and believing in for what you need, like that there is an internal voice, and tapping into that. If you listen to that voice, it'll allow you to really guide you to where you should be, because we each have really unique gifts, and thinking that there's only one path through dance or the arts, there are multitudes of possibilities of how to engage in it. And that, I think that was something for me I didn't understand first starting out, that I thought I had to be one thing, but there's so many possibilities, and letting yourself be guided in what that possibility is, and then continuing to ask for it. I wish I'd said that to myself 19. So thank you so much. And I will pass over to Ashley.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm grateful for all of the things and all of the people in my life. And I am here as an instructor, as a person, as a whatever. I don't know. I'm basically, I think of myself as nothing, but I know that I am not. I am not. I'm more than that. But yeah, no, I'm grateful for the people who have guided me into this space, and I'm grateful for this time. Grateful for, being recognized. That's cool. Yeah, thank you.
I feel very grateful that you've been able to join us today. And there's this wonderful idea in proclaiming your nothingness, where there's something about your humility in that, which means that you're part of everything. And so at the same time, I'm really grateful, as Mayumi had said, for the work that you have been doing and the work that you continue to do. So please Yeah, do stay in touch. I feel very grateful for this connection to that. And as I said at the beginning, if there's anything about today's program or future programs with Hamilton Arts Council that you'd like more information on, you can contact me. My name is David, and you can email me at community@hamiltonartscouncil.ca. Thank you so much again to Mayumi and Ashley for joining us. And yeah, I hope everyone has a marvelous rest of the day.